Bloodbending is one of the most creepy of all bending types out there so far. But since Katara worked hard to make the bending art illegal, bloodbending wasn't given the chance to evolve beyond its initial uses.
It's like my brain has a mind of its own!
Of course, Amon used it in an energy bending way, bringing it one step further. But imagine where the skill could have been taken if it was experimented upon like Toph did with metalbending. In today's video, I'll discuss the secrets behind bloodbending while expanding on the waterbending subskill to reveal all of its possible dark uses. When bloodbending made its first appearance in Avatar: The Last Airbender, we learned that it could only be used during a full moon. Since the moon greatly affects and empowers waterbenders, as we've seen in the episode where Yue turns into the moon spirit in order to bring balance back to where it was turned red, it only makes sense that the most powerful waterbending technique needs maximum moonlight.
You can control anything.
This special technique was first discovered by the wicked Hama while she was incarcerated in a Fire Nation prison. The cell she was in had no water source anywhere nearby, preventing her from waterbending and fighting back. This is where she got the brilliant idea of trying her bending art on elephant rats before moving on to bigger prey like humans. While she kept kidnapping Fire Nation villagers during each full moon after she escaped, the fact that she could only bloodbend during the full moon doesn't mean that it's the only way to do it. The full moon might have enhanced Hama's waterbending abilities, but as we've seen in the legend of Korra, bloodbending without the influence of the celestial body is a possibility, one that still needs some experimenting with. Due to various factors I'll address in later entries, bloodbending has mostly been used by practicing one single technique. Korra's most notorious bloodbender Amon used a Chinese martial art technique known as Qinna, which if translated literally means lock catch. The goal of the technique is to control or even lock one's opponent's muscles, tendons, or joints in order to restrain their movements. It literally makes them unable to fight back. Whether used by Hama or Tarrlok, every bloodbending user featured in Avatar and Korra have been seen using some variation of the Qinna technique, but in what visually looks like a more telekinetic way as compared to chi blocking. It doesn't require the bender to touch its enemy. Another thing which I find quite intriguing is the way that waterbenders' movements switch from a more fluid Tai Chi-inspired martial arts style to a stiff and straight way of moving when bloodbending. In some ways, it stays true to the push and pull way waterbenders use their chi, but in a vastly more violent way. Which makes me wonder, is there a small amount of ice bending involved in the technique? What do you think? Remember in Avatar when Aang coincidentally met up with the last living lion turtle and was gifted the knowledge of energy bending? The newly discovered bending style was game-changing, as it gave the Avatar the power to take away elemental bending from anyone. While in the original series it gave Aang a way to finally defeat Ozai in a very vegan way, things got a little bit darker in Korra's first season. Aang might have reused the technique years later to put an end to the bloodbender Yakone's rampage, but little did he know that someone would find a way to do the same decades later without needing Avatar-level powers. Amon found a way around energy bending by cutting off the paths of chi within the bending. It's not quite clear how Aang did it through energy bending, although we know he bended Ozai's life energy. But since what seems to be granting some people elemental powers is a connection within the bender to a higher power, there might just be a way to gift anyone with some bending abilities. Now, I know I stated in the first entry that waterbenders needed the full moon in order to even perform the slightest bloodbending. But Yakone and his two sons have proven to us that the rule was not set in stone. There's a chance that Hama just didn't hold that kind of power, and when it comes to Katara, she didn't give it a fair chance, and did everything that was in her power to outlaw the practice. There's a lot of mystery behind the very unique ability to be able to bloodbend even during daytime. Elemental bending is not supposed to be hereditary, but since both Tarrlok and Noatak learned the skill from their father, could that type of bloodbending be genetically transferred from a father to their offspring? Or like Toph and metalbending, could it be taught to anyone? Hama might have shown Katara some fancy martial arts moves when she showed off her bloodbending skills on Team Avatar, but she's got nothing on Yakone and Amon. In one of Korra's past life flashbacks, Yakone is about to be condemned in front of the United Republic Council. There we see Sokka, Toph, Aang, and others as they start moving in a weird, jerky way. The pain in everyone's face reveals that Yakone is actually bloodbending them without even moving one single finger. As if bloodbending wasn't powerful enough, Yakone developed what can be called psychic bloodbending. which means that even a restrained bloodbender can control anyone like puppets just by thinking it. If it wasn't for Aang triggering the Avatar state, the criminal waterbender would have easily escaped and eventually got his revenge on every council member. Now, if Yakone can bloodbend without cool arm motions, does it mean that there might be a way to waterbend using psychic powers? This could be a game changer, as waterbenders wouldn't have to deal with pushing and pulling water and could just manifest tides and ice picks using one single thought. Now, there's still so much we don't know about bloodbending, but it does seem that it is hereditary. Passing down a blood-related power through blood only makes sense after all. While Yakone did teach Tarrlok and Noatak the now forbidden bending art, those are the only two examples we have of other bloodbenders besides Hama and, of course, Katara. And come to think of it, what tells us that they're not related to Hama anyway? Bloodbending might just be a power that comes from a very strict bloodline, and it could be interesting to see where it originally came from. Since every elemental bending style was originally given from the lion turtles to humans during Avatar 1's time, something might have happened to the boy's ancestors at some point in time. When Avatar Kuruk had to continuously fight dark spirits, it affected him so much that he died at a young age. And we've all seen how spirits can corrupt people when they possess them. One theory could be that a dark spirit possessed one of Yakone's ancestors, and although he survived the encounter, it changed his DNA forever, making bloodbending a very unique and rare gift. When Katara met with Hama, she thought that she found an amazing mentor who could help her expand her knowledge about waterbending. While she was not wrong, she got a bit more than she bargained for. Hama taught her that there was water in every living creature, but little did she know that this new training would lead to the terrifying art of bloodbending. There are two events that led Katara to work towards making bloodbending an illegal bending style. First, the fact that Hama forced her to bloodbender to save Aang and Sokka from accidentally killing each other seemed to have left a deep scar. Second, when she was seeking revenge for the death of her mother, she found the commander of the Southern Raiders and used bloodbending against him. She eventually came to her senses and left the old man alone. However, these two moments seem to have scared her of, well, herself. It feels like she saw what a powerful waterbender could be capable of when mastering bloodbending and tried to prevent a future criminal from learning the skill. While that might have stopped most waterbenders from learning it, it did not stop Amon from doing what he did. Keeping such a promising ability from people just makes it even more desired. For today's last entry, I want to suggest the possibility that bloodbending could also be of use for healing. And if you think about it, so are most elemental bending abilities. Waterbending is associated with amazing water attacks and sharp ice picks falling from the sky right on one's opponent. But it's also known to have healing abilities. Since Katara comes to be known as one of the best healers in the world, it's a shame she did not experiment healing with bloodbending. Since blood is the source of life, it only makes sense that it would potentially have stronger healing properties than just water. Not only could it heal wounds at a faster rate, but if used properly, it could completely regenerate some body parts. I think it's time for bloodbending to make its great return. Bloodbending might be quite the mysterious bending art, but I wonder why we haven't heard more about the mixing of elements. Imagine what could be achieved medically if bloodbending would be combined with earthbending or bone bending. The Avatar universe could just be on the verge of a medical revolution.